Ferrari is a team that owes the Formula One world a lot, especially if you consider the fact that they've been projected to fight at the top and they've failed to beat the Williams in Miami. All in all, there is still a lot to comprehend back in the factories in Maranello, but the general feeling, and the one of Leclerc, is that we are not going to receive a faster version of the SF25. But are they going to change something to dictate the narrative to their own advantage? And more importantly, what does the future hold if they fail to do so? There is certainly a lot of negativity when it comes to Ferrari, but all of it is probably justified. We're talking about a team that was projected to fight at the top of the table, but they are now somewhere in the middle and have no idea what to do with the car. Although early projections did state that we could see the SF25 up there from Imola onwards, that might now not be the case given the gap that McLaren has opened up to the rest of the grid. Charles Leclerc has talked about the disappointing race in Miami and how the pace was just not there, stating that even with the perfect lap nailed, the car is just too slow. Elaborating further on this, Leclerc said, "The car is struggling in every corner really. It's not like we are particularly weak in one type of corner. Unfortunately, the race in Miami confirms a bit of what I was saying. With a really good lap, with everything in the lap, the best we could do was P8, and that's more or less where we deserved to finish today. It's not good. We need to do better. We are in a difficult situation at the moment, so I just hope we can turn that situation around as soon as possible. I think it's very clear why we are struggling. I don't know if we have the solutions yet." Of course, it's worth mentioning that everyone is waiting for the Barcelona GP, where the technical directive will take place, and we might be looking at a new landscape considering how much hope is put into this race to bring McLaren down. But on the other hand, we must say that the deficit is just too big to be covered with a single package, and even though qualifying is as close as it has been in years, the race is a different story. This used to be one of the main advantages of Ferrari, the tyre management. However, with just 1 year left in the technical regulations, the Maranello-based squad decided to change the narrative and to opt for a new concept. It was quite a controversial decision to say the least, but Fred Vasseur was adamant that there was a lot more potential to be extracted out of these regulations, and it would be foolish to not go that way. From this point of view, it's still questionable whether Ferrari made the right choice, but that is a thing in the past, and now we are focused on the greater goal, finding more performance in the next couple of races. Fred Vasseur has opened up on the development path that is coming towards his team, and when talking about this to a greater extent, the Frenchman has gone on to say there will be updates for Imola, but it's not just about development, it's about finding the best compromise with this car. We definitely have a small step planned for Imola, then another one for Barcelona, and the most important thing is to put everything together. Imola will likely suit us better than Miami because we struggle a lot in low speed corners. Track suitability is definitely a very important factor here, but we've seen that if you want to fight at the front, you need to have a highly reactive car to all types of corners. That is something that the MCL39 has shown, and if you want to compete for the championship, the standard has been set by the Woking-based squad. According to Lewis Hamilton, however, it's not as bad as it looks because there is still tons of potential to be extracted from the car. When talking about his race weekend in Miami, as well as where things have started to go in a different wrong direction, Lewis said, "Yeah, I had a good day in Miami in general. 8th doesn't really look like that. I feel optimistic about the future. I think this car really does have performance, but something is holding us back at the moment. We've lost performance since China. It's there, it's just we can't use it. Until we get a fix for that, then this is where we are." So is there any hope for the SF25? We must understand that even though the gap is too big, it's not something that can't be caught up with if the team follows a certain development path. Last year we saw how dominant Red Bull was in the first 5 events, and from that point on they were just downgrading very fast, something that could happen to McLaren as well. The difference regarding Ferrari in this entire picture is that they have a lot of teams to compete with. Mercedes is bringing substantial upgrades from Imola, Red Bull is going to introduce upgrade packages, and McLaren is not going to sit idle either. According to Hamilton, the potential is hidden in the car, but it needs to be be extracted from the upgrades that will come in the next couple of races, which will enable both him and Leclerc to fight for the top position. Elaborating further on this, Hamilton said, "In the meantime, we can work on the other stuff, all the other processes. But as I said, I came from the same last week. I feel like I generally had a better weekend. I truly believe that when we fix some problems we have with this car, we'll be in the fight with the Mercedes and with the Red Bulls. It just can't come quick enough. We'll try something different in the next race. We'll keep working on our processes. I look forward to the time when maybe I can fight for a podium. That would be nice." On the other hand, we need to be looking at the strategy of Ferrari. In Miami, we couldn't help but note that the Italian squad were arguing a lot of the time when it came to replacing the places of Leclerc and Hamilton. At the end of the day, it resulted in something that really left Hamilton furious. Wasted medium tyres that were nowhere near catching up with Antonelli at P6. The 7-time world champion was adamant we needed to do this a lot earlier and in a much swifter manner, but it ended up being quite the opposite of his feeling. Vasseur, however, didn't really think that the team did anything wrong in that regard, and when talking about the infamous swap that made the team a bit of a laughing stock on the grid, the Frenchman said, "It didn't take so long, it was 1.5 laps or something like this, and when you have two cars not with the same strategy, the first thing for me to understand is if it's faster when you are behind due to the DRS or not. It took 1 lap, which means it took 1 minute and 30 seconds to understand, and then we asked them to swap. Honestly, you can argue at the end that we would have been better off doing it directly, but we didn't know if it was the DRS effect or not." So with all things considered, we are going to have some interesting races ahead of us because of the volatility that Ferrari represents week in and week out. The Maranello-based squad are now fighting with a lot on their hands, and the prime thing to understand is the behaviour and the performance of the car. Once they do that, they can manage their drivers, which might be something they could leave for the next season, given the fact that they're not really in the championship picture compared to the rest of the competitors. And there has been a change of approach that is not as positive as you'd think under the leadership of Vasseur. One former engineer from Ferrari, Luigi Marzola, said that there is a big difference in how the team approaches the situation with Vasseur as they did with Binotto. Elaborating further on this, he said, "The motto has changed a bit. When Binotto was around, we needed to understand. Now with Vasseur, the approach is we need to search, and that they are searching for this blessed potential without managing to find it because it isn't there. Let's be honest, the two drivers are convinced of it, and the performance is what it is. Also, every time Vasseur is asked about upgrades, now we talk about Imola and Barcelona, and he puts them in the background." With all this in mind, do you think that Vasseur and Ferrari are totally in the wrong when it comes to the future development of the car? And more importantly, where do you think they're going to finish the 2025 campaign? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, have a look at the video that's appearing on your screen right now.